Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books so you can find your next read. Let's get started. Today, we're diving deep into LizMoore's God of the Woods.
Oh,
It's a novel that weaves this chilling tale of family secrets and loss and the haunting beauty of the Adirondack wilderness.
yeah, you're in for a treat. This book will grab you from the first page and keep you guessing until the very end.
Definitely. And to help us navigate all the twists and turns, we've got an expert guide who knows a thing or two about unraveling these kind of complex narratives.
Happy to be here. Yeah, God of the Woods is a masterclass in suspense, and Moore's use of dual timelines and multiple perspectives is it's really effective.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. The story centers around Camp Emerson. It's a seemingly idyllic summer camp nestled in the Adirondack Mountains on the Van Laar Preserve. But as we soon learn, this picturesque setting, it hides a dark undercurrent.
Exactly. The Van Laar family, who owns the preserve, they're shrouded in secrets and haunted by a past tragedy, the disappearance of their son, Bear, back in 1961.
14 years later, in 1975, another tragedy strikes the Van Laars. Their daughter, Barbara, vanishes from the same camp where her brother disappeared.
And it's this dual timeline structure that really drives the narrative. It forces you to piece together the events of both disappearances and question how they might be connected.
It's like you're trying to solve two puzzles at once with pieces just scattered across time. And then you add in the multiple perspectives. Each character is offering a unique glimpse into what happened.
Right. We hear from Louise, a troubled young counselor with ties to the Van Laar family through her fiancé. And then there's Tracy, Barbara's observant bunkmate, who starts picking up on unsettling truths about the camp and the people there.
Yeah, each voice adds another layer of intrigue, making you wonder who's a reliable narrator and who might be hiding something.
Exactly. And then you have Alice, Barbara's mother. She's struggling with mental health issues and haunted by the loss of her son. Her voice adds this poignant layer of grief and the struggle to cope with this unimaginable trauma.
It really makes you think about how women's voices, especially in that era, were often silenced when it came to their experiences with trauma and mental health.
Absolutely. And then we have Carl Stoddard, a local firefighter. He was wrongly accused in Bear's disappearance. And his life has been, irrevocably marked by that tragedy. His perspective highlights the devastating consequences of false accusations and that lingering shadow of suspicion in a small town.
And to add another layer of complexity, Moore introduces Judy Auta, a state trooper. She's investigating Barbara's disappearance. She's like a force of nature, determined to uncover the truth no matter what obstacles she encounters.
It's fascinating to watch her navigate the Van Laar family's influence and that tangled web of relationships, within their inner circle. She's not afraid to challenge authority and push boundaries to get to the bottom of things.
So we've got these compelling characters, intertwined mysteries, and the atmospheric backdrop of the Adirondacks. What are some of the details that really ramp up the suspense for you?
Well, you've got Barbara sneaking out of her cabin at night, which immediately raises questions. Then there's that discovery of a bloody uniform in John Paul McClellan's car. Louise's fiance, who has this complicated connection to the Van Laars. And then you have these cryptic clues scattered throughout the Van Laar Preserve. They're hinting at secrets buried deep within the family's history.
Yeah, it's like Moore is dropping breadcrumbs, leading you deeper into the mystery and making you question everything you think you know.
Exactly. And then there's the presence of Jacob Sluter, a real-life Adirondack serial killer who terrorized the region just a few years before Barbara's disappearance. And his shadow looms over the story, adding this chilling layer of fear and uncertainty.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if that idyllic setting of the summer camp is just a facade masking a darkness that lurks beneath the surface.
Right, and it's that juxtaposition of beauty and danger that makes God of the Woods so captivating. You're constantly on edge, waiting for the next twist to unravel.
So let's dive into the story itself. The narrative starts in the 1950s with Alice Ward. She's a young woman about to enter the world of the Van Laars through her relationship with Peter, the man who will become her husband.
It's fascinating to see Alice's initial impressions of the Van Laars and their world. She's struck by their wealth and their influence, but she also senses this coldness, a distance that makes her feel like an outsider.
She even admits to feeling ill with pretending. as she tries to fit into their social circles. It's clear that Alice is entering a world where appearances are everything and authenticity is sacrificed, for the sake of maintaining a certain image.
Right, and this theme of societal expectations and the pressure to conform, especially for women in that era, it really resonates throughout the story.
So Alice marries Peter and gives birth to their first child, Bear. What can you tell us about Bear and his relationship with his parents?
Bear, whose real name is Peter the Fourth, he's described as this bright and joyful child. Alice dotes on him, cherishing those moments they have together. But their idyllic family life is shattered when Bear disappears during the Van Laar's annual Black Flag Goodbye party.
And it's this tragedy that sets the stage for the entire novel, casting a long shadow over the family and the events that follow.
It's interesting to note how differently Peter and Alice react to Bear's disappearance.
How so?
Well, she's devastated, descending into this spiral of grief and mental instability. She's haunted by hallucinations of Bear calling out to her, a manifestation of her profound loss and inability to cope. Peter, on the other hand, he seems more concerned with controlling the narrative, protecting the family's reputation, and maintaining a facade of normalcy.
It's almost as if he's trying to erase the tragedy, to pretend it never happened, rather than confronting the pain and seeking the truth.
Exactly, and that contrast in their reactions, it speaks volumes about their characters and the dynamics within their marriage.
So as the investigation into Bear's disappearance unfolds, suspicions fall on Carl Stoddard, the local firefighter who was the last person to see Bear alive.
Right, and it's this suspicion that really highlights the dangers of small-town gossip and how quickly assumptions can solidify into accusations, especially when a powerful family like the Van Laar's is involved.
And even though Carl is ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing, the damage is done. His reputation is tarnished, and he lives with a shadow of suspicion hanging over him. It's a powerful reminder of how easily lives can be destroyed by unfounded accusations.
Absolutely. It makes you question how justice is served or not served in a community where power and influence can often dictate the narrative.
So we've got this unsolved mystery, a grieving mother silenced by her grief and her husband's controlling nature, and an innocent man wrongly accused. It's a lot to unpack.
It is, and this is just the beginning. As we move into the 1975 timeline, the story takes even more twists and turns, revealing layers of secrets and lies that will leave you breathless.
I'm already hooked. Yeah. But before we dive into that timeline, let's take a quick break to let all of this sink in. We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into God of the Woods. Okay, so we've set the stage with Bear's disappearance and the lingering impact it's had on the Van Laar's and those around them. Now, fast forward to 1975, and we find Barbara Van Laar, now a teenager, sent to the same summer camp where her brother vanished years earlier.
And it's here that we meet Tracy, Barbara's bunkmate. She kind of becomes our window into the events of that summer. She's observant, insightful, picking up on subtle cues that hint at something being amiss at Camp Emerson.
You almost get the sense that Tracy is a stand-in for the reader, trying to piece together the puzzle alongside us.
Exactly. She notices Barbara's strange behavior and the whispers and rumors among the other campers, and these strange dynamics between the Van Laar's and the Hewitts, the father-daughter duo who've worked for the family for generations.
The Hewitts, TJ and her father, Vic. They seem to hold a lot of unspoken history with the Van Laar's. It's almost like they're bound together by loyalty and resentment in equal measure.
It's a fascinating dynamic. TJ, the camp director, she's tough and capable, but you can sense this weariness in her, this burden she carries from years of serving a family that both relies on her and keeps her at arm's length.
And then there's Vic, her father, who's shrouded in mystery. Initially, TJ speaks of him as if he's dead, but we later learn that he's very much alive, living in seclusion on the Van Laar property.
This secrecy surrounding Vic immediately raises red flags. What is TJ hiding? And how does her father's presence tie into the Van Laar family's secrets?
These are questions that Judy Lyda, the state trooper investigating Barbara's disappearance, is determined to answer. She's convinced that the events in 1961 and 1975 are somehow connected. And she's not going to let the Van Laar's influence deter her from finding the truth.
It's almost like Judy Ida represents a challenge to the Van Laar's carefully constructed world. She's an outsider, unburdened by the history and loyalties that have kept everyone else silent for so long.
So as Judy Ida digs deeper, she starts uncovering these cracks in the Van Laar facade. We learn about John Paul McClellan, Louise's fiancé. He's connected to the family in a way that's not entirely clear.
And then there's the discovery of the bloody uniform in his car, which throws a wrench into everything. Suddenly, both John Paul and Louise become suspects in Barbara's disappearance, each accusing the other of wrongdoing.
It's like this tangled web of deceit and suspicion, and you start to wonder who's telling the truth and who's trying to protect themselves.
Right, and this is where the novel's exploration of power dynamics becomes really interesting. John Paul, as the godson of the Van Laars, he has a certain level of privilege and protection. Louise, on the other hand, is an outsider, vulnerable to manipulation and easy to scapegoat.
It makes you think about how easily those in power can exploit their position to control the narrative and silence those who threaten their carefully crafted image.
Exactly, and this theme of silencing and suppression is also evident in Alice's story. Remember, she's essentially sequestered away after Bear's disappearance, deemed too fragile to handle the public scrutiny.
It's heartbreaking to see how her grief and trauma are dismissed, brushed aside for the sake of appearances. It's as if her voice doesn't matter, that her pain is inconvenient to the Van Laar family's carefully constructed narrative.
Right, and this silencing of Alice, it further reinforces the novel's exploration of how women's voices were often marginalized, particularly in that era.
So we've got Judy Tartt trying to unravel the truth about Barbara's disappearance, while also navigating the Van Laar's influence in those tangled relationships, within their inner circle. Meanwhile, we're still left wondering about Bear's fate and how these two events might be connected.
And it's this constant interplay between the past and the present, the unresolved mystery of Bear's disappearance and the unfolding drama of Barbara's vanishing act that keeps you hooked.
Okay, so where do we go from here? What are some of the key turning points in the investigation that start to shed light on these mysteries?
Well, a significant breakthrough comes when Judietta finally locates Vic Hewitt.
The elusive father of TJ, right?
Exactly. And his presence, it adds a whole new layer of intrigue to the story. It turns out Vic was much closer to Bear than anyone realized, taking him on walks in the woods and forming a bond that seemed to unsettle Peter, Bear's father.
It's almost as if Peter saw Vic as a threat.
Oh.
Someone who was encroaching on his territory and challenging his authority as a father.
It's a fascinating dynamic. And as Judietta digs deeper into Vic's past and his relationship with the Van Laar children, she begins to suspect that he holds a crucial piece of the puzzle, something that could unlock the secrets of both disappearances.
Okay, so we've got Judietta on the Vic Hewitt trail. What about the other leads in the case? What's happening with Louise and John Paul?
Well, the investigation takes an unexpected turn when John Paul is arrested after the police discover drugs and drug paraphernalia in his car. And remember, he's still pointing the finger at Louise, claiming she asked him to dispose of the bloody uniform.
Oh, right. So now they're both suspects, each trying to shift the blame onto the other. It's a classic case of he said, she said.
And this is where the narrative really highlights the complexities of truth and perception.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you believe? And how do you determine the truth when everyone has a motive to lie?
It's a question that Judietta grapples with throughout the investigation.
And then Louise makes a crucial mistake. In her desperation to clear her name, she reveals to the police that she and John Paul had visited a secluded cabin on the Van Laar property.
And this cabin turns out to be significant, right?
Yeah, it is. It's the very same place where the searchers found the carved bear years ago during the investigation into Bear's disappearance.
Whoa. That can't be a coincidence. So now both Louise and John Paul are linked to the site where a key piece of evidence was found in Bear's case. Things are starting to connect in a very unsettling way.
Exactly. And as these connections become clearer, Judietta finds herself racing against time to uncover the truth before the case goes cold.
I say, so we're back and ready to unravel the final layers of this intricate mystery. As we left off, Judietta was hot on the trail of Vic Hewitt, suspecting he might hold the key to unlocking both Bear and Barbara's disappearances. The tension was palpable.
Indeed. God of the Woods doesn't shy away from keeping you on the edge of your seat, but it's not just about the suspense, More, she masterfully uses these gripping plot points to delve into deeper themes of guilt, family dynamics, and the weight of unspoken truths.
So tell me, what happens next? Does Judietta manage to get any answers from Vic?
She does, and what she uncovers is a bombshell. Remember, Alice had cryptically urged Judietta to look for Vic. Well, it turns out Vic was the one who found Bear's body all those years ago.
Wait, Bear's body? You mean he didn't wander off into the woods or get abducted?
No. Tragically, Bear drowned in the lake during that fateful Black Flag goodbye. But here's the twist, Vic. He didn't report the drowning. He covered it up under pressure from Peter Van Laer.
Wow, that's a game changer. So Peter knew all along that his son had drowned and chose to bury the truth. It's a chilling example of how far someone will go to protect their image and control the narrative.
Precisely. And it speaks volumes about Peter's character. He prioritizes appearances over everything else, even the well-being of his wife and the memory of his son. He essentially condemned Alice to a lifetime of uncertainty and guilt.
It's heartbreaking to think about Alice grappling with those hallucinations of Bear calling out to her, never knowing the truth about what happened to her son. It adds another layer of tragedy to an already devastating situation.
Absolutely. And it forces you to confront the devastating consequences of silencing and denial, not just for the individual, but for the entire family.
So what about Barbara? Was she also a victim of circumstance, or did she play a more active role in her own disappearance?
Here's where things take an even more interesting turn. It turns out Barbara ran away from camp, intentionally choosing to disappear.
Really? But why?
She had discovered the truth about her brother's death from TJ, and it seems the weight of her family's secrets and lies became too much to bear. She sought refuge in the same place her brother had found peace. In the wilderness.
That's incredibly poignant. She found solace in the very place that had haunted her family for years. And it speaks to the novel's exploration of nature's duality. It can be a source of both solace and danger, a place of both beauty and hidden truths.
Exactly. And in a way, Barbara's escape is a form of rebellion, a rejection of the suffocating world of the Van Laers. She chooses to forge her own path, seeking authenticity over the curated image her family so desperately clings to.
So does Judita track her down? Does Barbara return home?
Judita does find Barbara living on a remote island, safe and sound. It's a place TJ had shared with her, a sanctuary away from the Van Laers' watchful eyes. But what's remarkable is that Judita chooses not to force Barbara to return.
Wow, that's a powerful decision. She recognizes that Barbara has found a sense of peace and agency in her self-imposed exile, and that forcing her back into the Van Laer fold would be detrimental.
Yes. It's a testament to Judith's empathy and her understanding of the complexities of the situation. She sees beyond the letter of the law and recognizes those deeper human needs at play.
So what happens to the other characters? Do Louise and John Paul face any consequences?
Louise is cleared of any involvement in Barbara's disappearance. She breaks free from her toxic relationship with John Paul and takes her younger brother to live with her, choosing family over the deceptive world of the Van Laers.
It's a satisfying arc for her character. She finally steps out from under the shadow of the Van Laer family and embraces her own agency.
As for John Paul, the book doesn't explicitly state his fate, but it's heavily implied that he faces legal trouble for the drugs found in his car and his attempt to frame Louise. His actions finally catch up with him.
And what about Carl Stoddard, the man who was wrongly accused and whose life was irrevocably altered by the Van Laers' web of deceit?
Carl is eventually cleared of any suspicion, but the scars of that experience remain. He and his wife, they continue to carry the weight of those accusations. A stark reminder of how quickly a community can turn on someone when seeking easy answers in the face of tragedy.
It highlights the lasting impact of trauma, not just on individuals, but on the fabric of a community.
Exactly. God of the Woods, it doesn't offer easy answers or simplistic resolutions. It leaves you grappling with questions about justice, accountability, and the complexities of human nature.
So what's the ultimate takeaway from God of the Woods?
The novel is a masterfully crafted exploration of family secrets, loss, and the search for truth. It's a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that sometimes the most idyllic settings conceal the darkest secrets. It compels us to consider the power of nature, both as a source of solace and a keeper of secrets.
It sounds like a book that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
Absolutely. It's a story that invites reflection and discussion. It prompts you to consider the choices we make, the the consequences of our actions and the enduring power of truth, no matter how deeply buried it may be.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into God of the Woods. Thank you for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to our channel for more bookish adventures, and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge, and we will see you on the next episode.